Surprise upload! Time to get spooky. So hello you guys and welcome back to my channel. Now, as you may notice today, I'm looking a little bit different to how I usually do. I mean, I'm having a great hair day. I feel like my makeup is on point today. It is Halloween, so I thought that I would put together a small Halloween video for you guys, just something a little bit fun. I feel like there's always two types of people at Halloween. There's the types of people that don't really celebrate, or, you know, if they do partake in Halloween, it's more the sexy side, if you get what I mean. Now, don't get me wrong, I've nothing against the sexy costumes, like sexy nurse, sexy doctor, sexy lawyer, sexy teacher. You know, there's so many fucking sexy costumes out there. But there's that side of Halloween, and then there's the spooky side, and the weird side, and the side that's a bit mental. I fall into the latter. At Halloween time, I love going all out. I love dressing up, looking fucking mad, because it's the one night of the year that you get to look ridiculous and you can't be judged on it. I have the background done up. I don't know if you guys can see my pumpkin. Where is he at? There he is. Look at him. He's looking a little bit dull. I don't know, I don't think the candle lasted as long as I expected it to. So to get into the spirit of spookiness, I've decided to go through a few kind of Irish spooky things. I have my laptop right in front of the camera as well, so I can read out a few things for you guys. So, a lot of you guys might know that Halloween is believed to have originated from the Celts. It's supposed to have originated from, like, you know, Ireland, England and Scotland and all those fucking places. But it's deeply rooted in Celtic and Gaelic history, because on November 1st, Samhain was celebrated, which was like the start of the new season. It was like the start of winter, you're going into a new season. But they believed that the night before Samhain, which is Halloween night, that the veil between the living and the dead was weak. It was at its weakest point, so that the dead could come and walk among the living. The Celts were like superstitious fucking people, and they didn't want to die. So they started up putting on costumes on Iha Hauna, which is Halloween night in Irish. They started putting on like masks and scary shit, so when the dead did come back to life, and when the dead did come and walk among the living, the dead wouldn't be able to pick out the people that they wanted to kill. So say if you were a ghost and you died, and then you get to come back and walk among the earth and you want to kill a bitch, you're looking for that person. So by wearing the masks and by disguising yourself, you were essentially dodging death and dodging all the spirits that were out to get you. So that was where like dressing up and Halloween night itself came from. I mean, like, there's been a load of different theories and speculation, and it came from here or it came from there. But in pretty much any source that you read, most people agree on the fact that it originated with the Celts. How fucking rad is that though? The night before Samhain, they believed that all the fucking dead come back to life, specifically to like target people. So that's where the dressing up came from. And then you have the jack-o'-lanterns. I came across a really cool article on jack-o'-lanterns that I thought I'd share with you guys. Okay, so I'm reading this from Irish Genealogy. So it said, in order to prevent unwelcomed guests entering their homes at Samhain, the Celts created menacing faces out of turnips and left them on their doorsteps. Adding a lit candle to the hollowed out face gave added protection. In modern times, pumpkins are used. They're considerably easier to carve and a lot bigger. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of fucking spirit you'd have to be spooked by a turnip. I mean, I fucking hate turnips anyway, but I'm glad we switched to pumpkins. According to legend, the origin of the Halloween lantern can be found in the tale of a young blacksmith called Jack O'Lantern, who made a pact with the devil during a gambling session. He managed to thwart the devil and extracted a promise from him that he would never take his soul. When he eventually died, Jack was refused entry to heaven on account of his drunken, lewd and miserly ways. God was like, Jack, you had a chat with the devil once, do you remember? Get the fuck away from my gates. The devil, remembering his earlier promise, also refused to allow him into hell, so Jack was condemned to roam the dark hills and lanes of Ireland for eternity. His only possessions were a turnip with a gouged out centre and a burning coal thrown to him by the devil. He put the coal inside the turnip to light his way through the dark countryside, where he still wanders. Poor Jack, roaming the country with his fucking lit up turnip. Man, I'd let him in. If I saw someone roaming around with a turnip, demented in themselves, with nowhere to go, I'd be like, come on in, hon, I'll make you some tea. So that's just a really brief kind of rundown on a few of the main points of Halloween, what it is. But essentially, it kind of originated from the Celts believing that on this particular night that the veil was thin, and they believed, not only spirits as well, they believed heavily in like fairies and other mythical creatures too, and they believed that all these creatures could roam the earth on this night, so you had to be careful, you had to dress up your face, which I have done tonight, by the way. Are we liking it? I'm wearing a skull hoodie. It's my cousin right there. Get it? Because I'm a skeleton. I thought it was funny. I've lost my place now, I can't remember where I was. I read a thing as well about why people left out candy, or back in the olden days, it was like fruit and vegetables and shit, that they left out offerings for the spirits. So if the spirits swung by the house to kill someone, they'd see like food and offerings outside the house, and hopefully they would take that offering and leave. So that was where the whole giving food at Halloween came from. Now it's like, trick or treat, give me sweets. And I want to go through a few kind of cool supernatural or spirity or myths that are related to Ireland that I think you guys would like. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the banshee. I think most of you guys will be familiar with a banshee and what it is. I know there's a TV show now called Banshee as well. A banshee is stereotypically, she's usually a woman. She's been depicted in two different ways. One way, she's young, she's got really pale skin and long red hair, so she's pretty. But the other version is she's like a hag. She's old, she's got scraggy hair, she's bony and scary looking. One thing that I was always told growing up is, I mean, like, I'm Irish, so I was told a load of kind of Irish tales growing up. But one thing that my mom told me about the banshee was about a comb. She used to say that if a banshee had been nearby or had visited somebody, that she would have left a comb on the floor. Again, there's two different meanings to this, or possibilities as to why this was a thing. One of them is she used to comb her hair a lot, or one of them is she had a comb in her hair. Either way, if you see a comb on the floor, she's been lurking, so like, look out. Basically what a banshee is she's a woman who cries a lot. She cries a lot to warn people of death. She's been associated with very, very strong Irish names, so surnames beginning with Mac or surnames beginning with O, which my name does. If I hear a bitch crying in the middle of the night, I'm moving house. But she's said to appear to people, mostly to people with the name O or Mac, because they're very Irish names. And basically what she does is she pops up out of nowhere, stands nearby and just cries and wails to alert you to the fact that somebody in your family or someone that you know is going to die. So she's like an omen of death. It's been said that animals like cats can sense her, so if your cat starts wailing and screeching and you find a comb, it's time for you to move. Something else that I honestly wasn't aware of is the story of the Overtock. Now, I had never heard of this story before I started researching for this video, so I'm just going to read it straight from the website for you guys. This is from knowledgenuts.com. What a name for a website. The legend says that back in the 5th century in the town of Slaughterverty, Ireland, never heard of that fucking place, lived a brutal warlord known as Overtock. In those days, the stories say most lands were divided up into small areas ruled by petty kings, most of whom were hardly nice people. Overtock was believed to have dark magical powers and was greatly feared by his people, whom he was said to have treated very badly. So Overtock was a dick. Long story short. The townsfolk wanted to rid themselves of this troublesome king, so they hired another local king to deal with the problem. As far as coups go, it could have been simple enough. The king was murdered and buried standing straight up, which was considered the right and honourable way to do things considering his stature. The horror was not over yet. Overtock in the legends returned from the grave and demanded blood tribute from his people to sustain his energy. This led to Overtock being slain and buried multiple times, each time rising again from the dead to seek blood from the living. Could you imagine being the people of that town? Killing this prick, and then having to deal with him coming back and killing people and taking their blood. You're just sitting down for a cup of tea, having a relaxing night, and then, Jesus, Overtock is back again. He's banging at the door looking for blood. Eventually, the frustrated warlord, tired of slaying this undead monster, he found some people learned in the ways of magic and asked them for a solution to the problem. They explained that the monster was essentially between worlds and could not be killed, but that he could be trapped under the earth if the proper steps were taken. The legends say he had to be killed with a sword made specifically of yew wood, which sounds reminiscent to the stake through the heart theory often seen in popular culture. However, it does depart somewhat from modern lore in that to keep him in his burial state, he was also to be flipped upside down and covered with an enormous stone as well as thorns. So that fucker was not crawling back out of that grave. There is much speculation that Bram Stoker heard of the legend while studying in Ireland, and that it likely was much of the inspiration for his story. While it is hard to say for certain where all of Bram Stoker's ideas originated from, the legend was fairly popular in Ireland at the time, so it seems like a safe bet that his Irish friends would have told him of the legend. That's fucking cool. Bram Stoker stealing our fucking Overtock and making a different story out of it. So that is the story of the original Irish vampire. I read it and I kind of been thinking about it all day long, that it was this king that was a total prick. No one liked him, but he kept coming back from the dead. He wouldn't die. He wouldn't take no for an answer. He kept rising from his grave. Another creature that I want to talk about in regards to kind of Irish mythology is the Dullahan. So the Dullahan is essentially kind of like the Headless Horseman. If you guys know the story of the Headless Horseman, the Dullahan is kind of like him, but he's a little bit more extreme. He is described as being a man. He rides on a horse, usually a black horse. He's headless, so he carries his head, which is described as being like mouldy cheese. Ew. So he carries his head, which is smiling, by the way. He has a big fucking fuck off smile on his face. But he carries his head under his arm as he rides on his black horse. And he has a whip made of a human spine, which is pretty fucking metal, if you ask me. And he pretty much just rides around the place. And when he stops moving or he stops riding and he kind of stays stationary, that usually means that somebody's going to die. So again, he's like an omen of death. So he's kind of like the Banshee in a way, except for he causes the death. So he stops moving, he stops riding, he calls out somebody's name and they just drop dead. They just stop fucking living. The Banshee just kind of stands there crying to warn people that someone's going to die, but the Dullahan actually causes their death. There's no way to avoid this motherfucker. He can get through anything. So if the Dullahan decides that he's coming for you with his whip made of human spine, you're kind of fucked. You know, and he doesn't even have to get to you really, he just has to call out your name and you're dead. You wouldn't even know what hit you. They don't like people interfering either. It's been said that they'll throw a basin of blood all over you if you try and interfere. And then that's kind of like putting a mark on you to remind the Dullahan that you're like on his radar, so he'll probably come back and kill you. If you saw some fucker on a horse with no head, well, he has a head, it's just tucked under his arm and it looks like cheese. I mean, I don't know what kind of ballsy motherfucker you'd have to be to approach him, but if you do approach him, I think you kind of deserve the blood on the head, dude. I mean, like... And apparently the one and only thing that they are frightened of is gold. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like they'll be getting near Donald Trump anytime soon with his small loan of $1 million. I want to talk about an actual story that has fascinated me for years now. So back when I was in school, I was obsessed with everything paranormal, with ghost hunters or ghostbusters or Taps. If you guys are American, you probably will have seen the show Taps. I loved stuff like that. I was very close to a girl who loved paranormal things as well, and she told me about the story of Loftus Hall. So Loftus Hall is a house just outside of Wexford, and it's supposed to be the most haunted house or most haunted location in all of Ireland. There's a few different stories, there's a few different takes on the story, but I'm just going to read from its Wikipedia page for you guys, and I'm just going to read the part that interests me. So Charles Tottenham came to take care of the mansion in 1666 with his second wife and daughter from his first marriage, Anne, while the Loftus family were away on business. First of all, 1666. Nothing good can come from that fucking year, 666. During a storm, a ship unexpectedly arrived at the Hook Peninsula, which was not far from the mansion. A young man was welcomed into the mansion. Anne and the young man became very close. One night, the family and the mysterious man were in the card room playing cards. Well, what else would you be doing in the card room? Fucking playing hopscotch? In the game, each player received 3 cards, apart from Anne, who was only dealt 2 by the mystery man. A butler serving the Tottenham family at the table was just about to question the man when Anne bent down to pick another card from the floor, which she must have dropped. It is said that when Anne bent over to pick up the card, she looked beneath the table to see that the mysterious man had a cloven foot. It was then that Anne stood up and said to the man, "You have a cloven foot," and the man went up through the roof, leaving a large hole in the ceiling. Soon Anne became mentally ill. It is believed that the family were ashamed of her and they locked her away in her favourite room, which was the tapestry room. She refused food and drink and sat with her knees under her chin, staring out the window, until she died in the tapestry room in 1675. It is said that when she died, they could not straighten her body as her muscles had seized, and she was buried in the same sitting position in which she had died. A rumour states the hole could never be properly repaired. Meanwhile, it is believed the stranger with the cloven hoof returned to the house that caused persistent poltergeist activity. A number of the Protestant clergymen apparently tried and failed to put a stop to this. The family, who were themselves Protestants, eventually called on Father Thomas Broders, a Catholic priest, to exorcise the house. The apparent success of Father Broders' exorcism did not end the ghostly visitations of Loftus Hall. The ghost of a young woman, presumed to be Anne Tottenham, was reported to have made frequent appearances in the hall and has been reported to have been seen on the tour, which opened in 2011. They do tours around this house. They also do a thing called a lock-in, where they lock you into the house overnight. And loads of people have reported seeing the ghost of Anne or seeing weird things or hearing weird sounds in the house. There's different variations of the story, of course, but in every variation, it all ends the same way. That Anne grew close to this guy. This guy had weird fucking feet. He went up through the roof and then developed like severe depression, wouldn't leave her room and eventually died. And it's said that her spirit haunts the house, and it is reported to be the most haunted house in Ireland. I do want to visit it. but I am afraid to. I just think the places that are that paranormal, I don't think I'd like to be there. The house fascinates me, and it has since I first learnt about it. You can Google it yourself and look up all the different stories of it or first-hand experiences. You can take a tour of the house, but as far as I know, you're not allowed to film in the house because I haven't seen any videos of it online. But that's just a story that just always got under my skin and freaked me out. So yes, that is it for this Halloween video. A few of you were saying you didn't have any plans for Halloween, that you weren't going anywhere, so I thought, how about you spend it with me for the night? Or at least for 20 minutes. Or however long this video ends up being. So no matter where you are in the world, if you're celebrating Halloween, I hope you have a wonderful and safe night. I've been saying that to a lot of you guys in the comments of my last video, that whether you're going out or you're staying in, whatever you're doing, just be safe. So that is all for this video. I do hope you enjoyed this one. It was a different tone, different kind of setting. We had the spooky things in the background and the lighting is nice and dim. And my face is illuminated by the screen, making me look psychotic. It's the one night a year where if somebody comments on my makeup and goes, your makeup looks weird, I can go, it's fucking supposed to. So I hope you all have a great Halloween and I will talk to you all soon. The camera didn't even pick up on all the spookiness going on in the background, so I said I'd film it for you guys. There's cobwebs. Close up of Mr. fucking demented face, look at him. That's supposed to be lighting. And then let's put a fuck ton of fairy lights in around where the pop figures are so that'll look cool. And then we have Jim. Look at him. He's ready for a hug.